All right, this is Michael Pearl, continuing with the story of the way God moved in the 1960s and 70s, even up into the 80s. When I went to Mid-South, I meant to Southside Baptist Church out of college. I was about my third year in college. There was a skinny little old girl there that was just one of the young people. Her mother and she were very active in child evangelism and very active in winning the military to Christ, as was her father. And so it didn't take long for me to realize she was an asset because she would bring in the young people. She's very popular with everyone around, great bubbling personality. But she was not the kind of girl I would want to marry. For one thing, she was too young. I was about 21 then. She was about 16, so she was too young. So I didn't look at her like a potential girlfriend. She was just a young person that would be an asset to the pastor of the church. So I would rely upon her. I'd say, let's get the young people together Thursday night. She'd do all the legwork. She'd get them together. She still does that for me. And so that went on for 2 or 3 years. In fact, when I would have a date, I would bring her along because if I needed to deal with someone, counsel someone, she was my counselor for the females, so I'd pull her over. So she was always sitting on the other side there with the three of us in the front seat. I didn't see her as a chaperone. She was just, because every date I had was going out to preach or sing or testify. There was no time to do anything else. So I'd see a nice-looking girl, and I'd say, come on, let's go, and I'd take her for a couple times. If I liked her, I'd invite her back. If I didn't, so I got to know a lot of young ladies like that. And Deb was always sitting there just about beside me the whole time. So it went on like that for about 3 or 4 years before one day we were at her daddy's house after church on Sunday, and he had about 25 military guys there for dinner, which was their habit. And I walked in a little late, and Deb walks up with one of the military guys holding his arm like this. Randy Sinclair, in fact, was his name. I still remember the dirty dog's name. And she said, by this time, half of the girls in the church had married one of the military guys and gone off. We'd lost some good singers. We'd lost some good test witnesses. They'd just gone off with the military guys. So she walks up and she says, guess what? We're getting married. Well, now, I'd heard that a dozen times, and I thought, that's great, good couple, nice couple, good pair. She said that, and man, that can't happen. What would I do without you? Now, I tried to look like it was okay and everything, but I had this giant emptiness inside, this can't happen. I can't lose her. Now, I had not thought of her as a potential mate, but I knew at that point that she was my best friend and that I really liked her, that she was valuable to me. None of that, she was precious to me. And I just never really faced that fact. So I don't recommend this as a technique, girls. A guy's got to be really in for that works. But it just really left a sinking feeling for me. So I began to look at her more seriously. And then one night, I think it was a Monday night, a group of saved hippies said, we're having a prayer meeting down in Memphis somewhere. I want you to come down and join us. So I picked her up because she's my traveling buddy, and picked her up, and we went down there. And it was a sweet time of prayer, just a beautiful time. When people praying and they've only been saved a week or 2 weeks or a month, and they were saved out of a whole lot of sin, drugs, alcohol, immorality, it's different from when us old homeschoolers get together to pray. And so as we were praying, I just had this overwhelming love and appreciation for her. So I reached over and took her hand. Now, I didn't touch girls. It was like everybody knew that. I didn't put my hand on the ladies in the church. I didn't hug anybody. I didn't touch girls. I'm wired wrong. I don't touch females. And I have this electrical charge goes off when I touch females. So I didn't do that. So when I took her hand, she said, she felt the electricity too. And so when we left there, I was real quiet. I just was real quiet. And all the way home, it was like 45-minute drive home. She had driven up there in her Volkswagen Bug to the parsonage at the church. And so that's where I was taking her back to so she could get in her Bug and go back home. She lived about 5 miles from the church. So I pulled up into the lot there, and I just stopped. I didn't open the door and didn't get out. I just sat there. And she looked over me and said, you remember that little boy you baptized Sunday night? He's about 8 years old, little tot, just had to lift him so you could see him above the glass, you know. And I said, yeah. She said, I want to give you a baby like that. Oh, yeah. All right. Come on. Woo. I jumped out of the car, and I ran all the way around the parsonage, whooping, ran past the car, ran around the parsonage again. She jumped out, and she said, I thought, oh, boy, I messed up now. I ran him off now. I came back, and I grabbed her, lifted her up in there, and I said, let's get married. We were 6 days later. I don't believe in long engagements, and I touched her, but then I'd had it. I didn't have any reserve left. I was 25 years old. It was time. I had a fire going. And so 6 days later, somebody called her mother, and down in Florida, mother and dad on vacation, said, do you want to see your daughter get married? She said, what? Which one? She said, Debbie. She said, to whom? She said, the preacher. You mean Mac? She called me Mac. Yeah, and they came rushing home in time to see us get married. Back in those days, you didn't go do all that talking to the father. If a guy and a girl of age got together, the father went along with it. It was totally different now. And so we got married on a Sunday night during church, but I had to preach first because I had kin folks come that had never heard me preach before that were lost. So I preached for 2 hours. And then I baptized 7 or 8 people that got saved that night. And about 10 o'clock, I said, Mr. Smith, can I marry your daughter? They were sitting in the back. He was about to say, it's about time. And so he brings her down the aisle, and I walk down and say my vows. She says her vows. And I had a preacher friend, a college professor, stand up and pronounce, and had everybody pronounce as man and wife, and then he did the official thing. And then I picked her up and held her while they sang, to God be the glory, great things he hath done. And that was our wedding. So from that point on, we became co-workers. We were co-workers already, but we became intimate co-workers at that point. And God has blessed us over and over and over again all through the years. But about a year later, I left Southside Baptist Church and went totally freelance. Bought a set of paints and some canvas, and we hit the road with $150, a 25-foot travel trailer, and a 6-cylinder GMC V6 pickup truck, 3/4 ton. And we headed out. We went to Mississippi. We went to Indiana, Kentucky, stayed several places, ended up in California, in Santa Barbara, with a cult. It was a Christian cult. Supposed to have been a commune. I think it was a cult when I got there. But I broke and couldn't get out of California. And no way to get home, so I had to stay there and to eat their food. And I painted every sign. It wouldn't let me sell paintings in the town, so I painted every sign, 6 of them that I could paint, made a little money that way, and then got a house to paint. In the meantime, my truck had blown an engine, so we had to overhaul the truck. Never done that before. Overhauled it in the parking lot. Got it overhauled finally and got enough money to head home. And I was never so glad to get out of a place in my life. So we headed home with just enough money for gas to get back home. Gas had gone up to 40 cents a gallon, so we knew it was going to be a stiff ride home. We were heading across the desert there out in Arizona somewhere. See those signs that says next service is 110 miles? We just saw the sign, next service 110 miles, and the truck quits, just stops dead. Hot, I mean, like 110 degrees. This was in August. And so here was this 2 buildings, a little eating joint and a metal building on the side of the road, first we'd seen in 100 miles. And I pulled off in there, and I went over and asked the people at the eating joint, any mechanics? No. Where's the auto parts place? 110 miles that way. And so I heard some noise. I went over and looked in the building, and there was a man in there working on a semi-motor. And I said, my truck quit, just stopped all at once. I don't know what it is. He said, well, it sounded like it might be. And he said, you need, if you had some, a condenser, it might be the condenser. I said, well, I just changed it out. So I went back and I went through all the trash on the dash to see if I could find that old condenser that it was still working when I took it out, and found an envelope, my name on it, opened it up, and had a $100 bill on it somebody had given me that I didn't know was all mixed in that stuff, which we needed to get home on. And then I've got the condenser and put it in there. That didn't work. Went back. He said, well, maybe your points. So I put some more points in it. That didn't work. He said, then it's your coil. He gave me some tests to do. I wasn't a mechanic. So I said, where can I get a coil? He said, we can get one Monday down, and this was Saturday. I said, man, we can't stay here, 2 days in this heat. He said, well, there might be one out back. I'll look. He found one, said it'll be $5. Put that on. I put that on, cranked right up, off we went. And our child, Rebecca, the first one, was conceived the next night in Oklahoma in a roadside stop. And so we should have named her Wendy, because that trailer was about 40 miles an hour wind, rocking that thing like that. So God has blessed Deb and I, and we've had an exciting journey all these years, and it's still exciting and still going on. So I thank God that out of that 60s came a whirlwind marriage that has been a blessing for 50 years now. So I'll stop there and continue later with more.